What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Morning Mayhem. It's your boy Chris, coming with a very different episode today. Very fortunate. A couple of weeks ago, I got to interview Jacob Airy and talk to him about a very interesting topic, I thought, Christianity and Christian nationalism and everything like that. And that was an awesome show. That was my first interview on my channel, and he was an amazing person to have on. I highly recommend that. I'll try to put it up over here. As you know, that's what it looks like. Link will be in the description. Go check it out. It was a very good interview. Today I do have another interview. I'm very fortunate to grab him when I can. My guest today is Robert Hur. He is a conservative commentator. He's got his video podcast up. He's got just so many followers on Twitter or X, and he's doing the thing. He's going out to these the People's Convention, and he's rubbing elbows with people with Turning Point and other organizations out there. And I did preface this last week that I would be speaking with him, but this guy's on his way up. He's doing big things, and I'm so just overly grateful that he made time to get with me and to get with us and talk a little bit about him and things he's got going on, and hopefully we'll do a little deep diving into current events and election stuff and whatnot. So without any further ado, guys, thank you for tuning in, and let's welcome my guest, Robert Hur. Well, hey man, thanks for joining me. Super excited to have you on my show. You've had me on yours, the Washcast, and that was really cool and really cool of you. So just for the audience watching, again, I do want to say this is Robert Hur, and just to clarify, it is H-E-R-R Hur, not H-U-R-R Hur. You're not the Robert Hur that said that Biden was unfit to stand trial for what his stuff was, right?
No, but I will say that he is unfit. He's unfit for the presidency. That's about it.
For something.
He's unfit for a lot of things. Breathing is one of them, but he's still a human being. I still love him. I still respect him as a person, not as a politician.
Awesome. So really wanted to have you on to kind of just talk about you and some of your unique perspectives and some of the stuff you've been getting into lately. I've been really excited about that. We'll talk about your socials, and I've been keeping up with him on Twitter and everything lately, and just all the stuff you've been doing has been awesome.
What a dumpster fire the Twitter feed is, huh?
Hey, I enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. I'm just getting used to Twitter, and hey, you guys have not disappointed. That's for sure. So the first thing I want to talk about, I just want to talk about you a little bit. So you are you're a business owner.
Yes.
I don't want you to dox yourself any more than you already do, because you kind of already do that yourself. And
everything I do is front and center. I have nothing to be ashamed of and nothing to hide. As
a business owner in the U.S., I think you do come at a different perspective than a lot of people that aren't, traditional business owners in the sense. Like, what is it that you do? And let me ask you this too: what do you do? And kind of the caveat to that, how long have you been doing it, and have you seen a difference between doing it while Trump was president, while Biden was president? Anything that you've seen, if you've been doing it that long? I don't know, but what do you do?
So I own a small delivery company right now called Deliver Logistics. It's right now I'd still consider us in the startup phase, but we run basically two programs. One is being built still. It's a small business, American small business alternative to DoorDash. And then the part that I'm already doing is what I call custom logistics solutions. So it's a completely white labeled experience, and the drivers and everybody are trained specifically to the company's needs. We'll even run their branding, their logos just with our DOT numbers. But I've owned my business for 2 years. So I'm in my third year of business. So I started it under the Biden administration, and I was working in the field prior. So I spent almost 5 years at FedEx, and I worked through the pandemic, and that was the inspiration to start the business. But
sure,
there's definitely been a shift. So for example, if we go back to 2020, we had, obviously the holiday season of 2019 kind of died out for about a month. And then the pandemic hit, and we started seeing volume just explode. We stayed at holiday numbers for a couple months after that, and we watched a lot of large businesses start taking over the majority of the freight that was coming in. So it was a lot of Target, it was a lot of Walmart. A lot of the larger businesses were capitalizing on the fact that they can ship out, tens of thousands, pardon my language, of parcels every day, at a lower cost than a small business could. And the small businesses were already hurting because most of them had some kind of a retail front as well. Their overhead and their expenses were going up. So we saw a lot of larger businesses taking that market share. So my reasoning for getting into my own thing was because I wanted to work with American small business. I wanted to be able to help optimize supply chains, at least on the delivery side, for mom and pops, for smaller corporations. And at the same time, while everything was shut down, we saw DoorDash and Uber Eats and all of those prices kind of surge, and businesses were forced to kind of lock into these percentage rates of how to, basically it's a certain percentage of their sales plus platform fees and everything else. Plus you don't get any customer service control. So I saw a lot of the predatory practices. And when I started the business, I knew it was my goal from day one. It's what I wanted to do. And since then, it's just been kind of gaining smaller contracts and trying to build it up from there. But I wanted to take that approach to small business because the majority of, whether it's retailers or it's like I work for, medical companies right now, that are smaller, and they don't quite have the edge that you'd have with a lot of the bigger boys. So being able to offer an alternative that's more customizable and more effective for a small business was my goal from day one. Plus, I kind of piggyback off of the public square idea where all of the customers that I work with, I vet them. I make sure that they are sourcing, manufacturing, and hiring here in the U.S.
Wow.
So, for example, if I go to do business with a company whose customer service is outsourced to India, I won't do business with them.
Good for you, man.
I'm all in on America first.
Yeah.
And I know that people say that has baggage with it, but it doesn't for me. For me, it's not a movement. For me, it's about putting hardworking, tax-paying Americans and their businesses back onto a platform that they will actually be able to get behind.
Absolutely. Dude, now, how big is your business? Where are you guys located? How far do you go out?
So right now, where we're at in Pennsylvania, we cover about 200 miles, 200 square air miles.
Okay.
At the moment, looking to, by the end of the year, expand into Ohio, as well as by next year moving. I want to set up a southern operation as well. So hoping to move into South Carolina and Florida in 2025.
Oh, very
Reason
nice,
being
man.
for that is I want to target areas, not necessarily. We're not talking about building a nationwide network, but I want to target areas that have high small business populations and have high concentrations of small business. So maybe doing business in Miami is not an option, but maybe somewhere in the more rural parts of the state, or even just the smaller cities. Take, for example, a city the size of like Harrisburg here in Pennsylvania, or Erie, that's not a full metro area, you would say, that has a heavy small business population that'd be able to reach their customers with the same convenience and ease as someone in New York City. Those are the goals. So I've got my first 5 states are lined up. Obviously Pennsylvania, Ohio, Florida, South Carolina. And the one that is a big iffy for me is Louisiana.
Okay.
And some of that's based off of job creation too, because when you look at poverty rates and you look into, say, a city like New Orleans, for example, that has a high unemployment rate, a large number of people living below the poverty rate. If I can come in and down the line set up just a single hub, the single warehouse that gets 50 or 60 people back to work to where they can make an affordable wage while I'm able to give a business, whether it's a small price cut or it's just a more personal customer service experience.
Right.
I want to be able to do that. I don't want to just go where the money is. I want to go where they need us as much as we need them. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's a bad term. It's a bad phrase to use because it sounds kind of predatory, but I want to be able to go into areas that are going to be mutually beneficial.
Sure. Yeah. I think, I mean, obviously as a business owner, you want to make money, you want to be profitable, and, if a big part of that is helping people along the way, be it especially, and this is something I've spoken about a lot. I think, small business ownership is the heartbeat of America. We are the backbone of what makes this country great. We saw the largest transfer of wealth during COVID from the small mom and pop shops that couldn't open to the Walmarts, the Amazons, the liquor stores, all the places that could stay open. During all that, we saw the hugest transfer of wealth. And yeah, in your local communities, I mean, that's the heartbeat right there of so much. And so for your vision to be not only your own personal, I don't want to say greed, but to go in with greed, like I'm going to make all this money. It's like, hey, I'm going to help myself by helping other people, and I'm going to help them help other people. For a while, I was involved with, and I know they get a bad reputation, but I learned a lot about business from being associated with them. But I was in Amway. You've heard of Amway?
Yeah.
So it stood for American Way, which was people helping people.
Yep.
So judge it for what you want or whatever. But the philosophy of that I thought was really, really awesome. That you only get ahead by helping other people get ahead. And so that sounds like a lot of what you're doing in your business. That I've got my trucks or I've got my delivery system set up and everything, but it's only beneficial if I'm helping other people grow and build their businesses as well. So that's a win-win.
My thing is, and obviously, as a small business, this is very easy to say. If you scale, it gets a little more difficult, but
sure.
I never want to build a business based on dollar figures alone. I want to be able to build business based on relationships.
Sure.
Like, I've said, I work with a mom and pop medical company right now, small locally owned one. And I hope in 25 years, even if they're my lowest paying contract, that I'm still working with them. Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the day, that's the only way you stay in business. And that's really the only way you can grow is by maintaining positive relationships. But, to your point about, obviously making a lot of money, I don't care if I make a lot of money. I want the business to make money because at the end of the day, I've said it from day one, and maybe it's because I'm wet behind the ears, but if it came down to me taking a $150,000 a year salary as the owner and CEO, so that all of my employees could make a minimum of 60,000-70,000 a year,
right?
I would take that in a heartbeat.
Okay.
I don't ever want to be that guy.
Right.
I can make money in my own ways. I don't need to take from my employees and my contractors and the people that are giving me the means to make that money.
That's right.
So
again, hats off to you for kind of the mindset going into that. I think that's fantastic. And I thank you for supporting local small business ownership, because again, that's something I push big time, and I love it. I think it's awesome. Something else you do, which we kind of hinted at earlier, is of course you have the Washcast. And what is that? What are you? And I don't even know what to call us, because I'm not a content creator. I'm not really creating content so much. So I often say I'm a commentator or a conservative commentator, and I've referred to you
that's still content creation.
I think. Yeah, well, that's true. That's true. So what would you say that you do, and what is the Washcast? What and why are you doing it?
I can actually roll, I guess, all of those things into one quote, and it's what I tell everybody. I'm just a guy that likes to talk to interesting people, and I happen to do it on camera.
There you go.
There's no real point to the show. There's no real point to what I do. It's really just having conversations with people that have a human side to show, that have something that they're passionate about, that they want the time to be able to get it out there in any way possible. I don't have a huge following. I pull, on Rumble at maybe, 150 to 300 and some odd views per video. So it's not,
Right.
it's not massive. X is the same way, but I've been able to build a pretty loyal base of people that watch the show. And so, the idea of being able to give someone a platform regardless of size, that's the whole reason I do it. I mean, I don't know if you got to watch the full show with Santos, with former Congressman Santos, but I had people messaging me prior to it wanting me to ask him about scandals and controversies and this and that, and it's just not what I do. The show, I tried to keep it, lighthearted, but keep some of the topics relevant, and it was, one thing I'll say is, I think through a lot of that, I'd like to think people got to see a side of George Santos that you're not going to see in the media.
I agree.
Because he was able to give, unfiltered thoughts and opinions, and it was a no pressure environment. It wasn't, he did. I hope he didn't feel like he had to watch what he said on my show, because my whole goal is to never have an agenda.
Right.
And I'll die on that hill.
It was a great show. I've got my, opinions about some of the stuff around him, and, and questions that I would have, been interested to hear answered. But it was two dudes having a conversation. Yes. I mean, you guys talked about some politics. You talked about, folks in politics. You talked about life, and it was a genuinely interesting conversation to listen to. And I think that's something that I've enjoyed about everyone that you've talked to, that I have watched anyway, is, again, you don't have an agenda. I mean, you and I both, I mean, and everybody, we all have our own biases and slants and stuff that we may enter a conversation with, or we may, hope a conversation is like, let's hope this is positive in this light, and maybe, but yeah, they just seem to be genuinely, optimistic conversations. I'm going to sit down with this person, we're going to chat, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
And I think, again, whether it be, George Santos, or whether it was the comics, Zeke,
Jesse.
Yes.
Jesse is just a fantastic person, man. I love her to death. I love what she's doing. She's hardworking. She's super creative. She actually just did an intro video for the show that's going to be, instead of like there'll still probably be a countdown timer, but instead of it being like a 2-minute or a 3-minute countdown, it's going to be like a 1-minute countdown and then into an intro video. So she did a lot of work on it. It turned out really cool. I'm excited for it.
Well, I'll go ahead and plug them real quick and just say that I've been invited on the show. So, so I'm looking forward to possibly being on that show in, I guess it's the end of July. We talked about that. So I'm excited about that, because I really enjoyed her very, very much. But again, that goes back, I think, too, when you go in with an agenda, that can often override the questions or the curiosity. It'll override the genuine curiosity. Let me say that, because I think when you go in, it's like, I'm going to ask A, B, C, D. And then the conversation is going one way, and you're like, wait, well, I need to go back this way because I need to hit, all my points, and I need to get my questions asked. But when you just go in it either open-minded, or you go in it more curious, you tend to follow the flow of the conversation, and sometimes it leads to answering the questions that you already had in your head in a natural kind of way without it being forced. But again, it comes across so genuine. And I think, again,
thank you.
I mean, that's the thing that people hate about the mainstream media, is it's so disingenuous that when you tune in there, they have their bias and everything too, but they will lie to you and say, oh, we're fair and balanced. They'll lie to you and say, we're, the most trusted news organization, or they'll say like, this is right down the middle. And, let's look at how this candidate is, but let's not talk about this candidate. I'm very open about my bias and the way I lean, and I do lean the other way sometimes on some topics too, so I'm like, look, if you listen to me, I'm going to be as fair as I can. I'm going to give you the transparency I can. All my sources are always linked down below. Check them out. Make sure you fact check me. I'm cool with it.
Yep.
but I'm obviously going to have my own bias and everything. But if I have a conversation with somebody like you know, I'm not hoping you go like, ooh, I hope he talks good about, you know, Trump, or I hope he talks good about what,
Right.
you know, I'm genuinely curious about these things. Like if you had owned your business for a
Yep.
while, I know listening to, it's been a long time, but listening to like Tim Pool, one of the things he had talked about was business owners under Trump versus under Biden. They were like, this is the greatest, you know, 3 years we've ever had in business. Business was booming. Everything was good. And all of a sudden, because of COVID, everything shut down and it's just never recovered for them and people selling their businesses and everything. So I know there's been a big difference out there. And I was just kind of curious on yours. Of course, you haven't personally experienced that in your own
Right.
business, but you've seen it and you know
Yeah.
what's out there. Not only do you do the Washcast, which again does have its own bias and slants in it, like we all do, but it's a fun conversation. It is a fun podcast, video podcast, or content to watch. And guys, I'll give them I'll give them 1,000 plugs on this, and that's obviously one of the reasons I wanted to talk to him, is because the show is just so fun. I mean, just the people that he has on there, and from everything from, you know, left to right, top to bottom, black to white, whatever, it doesn't matter. And again, there's so much genuineness in the conversations, the curiosity there, and the questions and where they go are so intriguing to me. I get pulled
They're
into
off the
people,
cuff too.
and it's so Joe Rogan-esque in the sense of like, I will watch clips of Joe Rogan interviewing someone I've never heard of, have no interest in, ultimately, you know, from just like not knowing, you know, this guy from Adam or whatever, but like they're doing deep dives in conversations that I'm just like, holy crap, what are they talking about? I'm so interested. So like with Z, I'd just been following him a little bit when you said that you were going to be speaking with him, but you know, I had no skin in the game in this guy. I'm like, you know, I know he's got a good following and all, but just hearing him talk and the passion of everything he said, I'm just, oh my goodness, I can listen to this dude talk for days.
Yeah.
And you were just so gracious with the time, and you were so, I mean, of course, you know, we have to sometimes guide a conversation a little bit so it doesn't end up like Sean's off the rails, third Railify, Saturdays at midnight. So
It's a fun time. It really is. I love being able to do his show and be a part of it, because
oh, it's nuts.
where the Washcast is more of like a, you know, it's human conversation. It's typically, you know, it has like a specific focus or a vibe to it. When I go on Sean's show, it's like just a couple dudes hanging out, and it's great. It really
It's
is.
nuts. nothing is out of line.
No.
Nothing.
No,
Literally nothing.
I can come unglued on his show and it's fine.
I feel like I remember the topic of the first time you and I were together on his show, and I was like, this is what we're opening with? Seriously? It was, yeah.
Yep.
So anyways, moving on from that madness. One more thing before we move on to the kind of the next topic I want to talk about, but a little bit more about you too. You also work closely with another organization, I believe, that you often will cite for voting. And it's something that you've been very, very passionate about. Now, I don't know how involved you are in the sense of like, you know, volunteering or paid, or you have a specific role, or it's just something you believe in that you're not technically, you know, part of or whatever, but who is it and what do you do with them, or tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah. So the organization that I work with, and I wouldn't even say work with, I'm really just a friend of Scott Pressler's, but Early Vote Action is the organization. Scott Pressler started it in 2022. If you know, for those that may not know who he is, he's the voter registration guy.
Man, big time. Yeah.
He got a great head of hair on him too. But you know, I'm really just a friend of Scott's. You know, I volunteer where I can. I jump in and help out, and you know, and some of it is, you know, I get cool experiences out of it. You know, the whole weekend in Detroit, I ended up pretty much just being part of the entourage on Saturday. You know, it was cool to just kind of be immersed in all that, and I made a ton of great connections through it as well. But the work that he's doing is so important. I mean, he's on the ground registering voters every day. He's going into jails. You know, he's registering, you know, for example, here in Pennsylvania, one of the battleground states, the second you're released from incarceration, you can vote. Your voting rights are restored.
Okay.
So he's been going to jails, and even the guys that are in jails on like misdemeanor offenses,
Right.
they're still able to vote with absentee ballots.
Okay.
So, he's going into jails and he's registering people to vote. He's going door to door with the Amish communities.
How about
to
that?
court their vote. He goes into, and granted, it's part of the greater Trump campaign as well. But, the deep blue cities, Detroit for the convention. Last weekend was Philadelphia. And he was out in the blazing heat and the horrible humidity with a ton of volunteers out there talking to residents of North Philly, just one-on-one, having conversations, just trying to court voters that otherwise may not know that the platform cares about them.
Yeah.
And so the work that he's doing is super, super important. And I do want to plug earlyvoteaction.com as well as the Early Vote Action app.
I was going to say, I'm actually going to put that in the show notes below. I'm going to have a link to Early Vote down below. But keep going. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I am going to put that down below so you guys check that out.
Yeah, it's a super powerful app because you can go right into the app. You can reach out to voters, whether it's with postcards, phone calls, text messages. If your state is one of the ones that's on the app for door knocking routes, you can go and knock doors to voters that are maybe registered that haven't voted in the last two primaries or didn't vote in the last general election. So it gives you a way to really reach out to your community and get people involved that are wanting to change this country and restore it to what it once was, that otherwise may not have any skin in the game. You're able to show up at somebody's doorstep and have a conversation with them about, hey, what's important to you? And part of what I love about what he does is that he doesn't use the cookie cutter of who are you voting for? He doesn't, you don't disclose your affiliation right away. You just have human conversations and you're able to find out, hey, you know what? This person's actually all in. Let's find a way to get them all in. So it's something that, I'm proud to say that I'm a friend of Scott's. I look forward to and love every single opportunity that he gives me to be able to be a part of it. Because I'll be completely honest with you, whether it's holding a sign in North Philly that says "honk for Trump," something silly like that, or it's being able to be on the ground at a voter registration event like we were up in Erie, just to be a part of that and to see the work that goes into it firsthand and the results that it achieves. When he posts the registration numbers every week, and you see the grip tightening, like it's great. It's fantastic. It's amazing to see the work that's done. So, I'm definitely not directly affiliated in any way, shape, or form. I'll say that now. But I do like to volunteer any chance I get because in my opinion, Scott is, in terms of singular individuals, he's the greatest asset that the GOP has on the ground, beyond a shadow of a doubt. So I can't sing his praises enough. I can't sing the praises of his team at Early Vote Action. Mayor Longo from Slippery Rock does a lot. He's hosting a fundraiser this week. We're actually doing a live stream of it. It's a watch party, as well as 2 hours of pre-show with interviews and like man on the street style stuff with guests. So it'll be an absolute blast. But every bit of work that those guys do is just it's more of a privilege for me to be a part of than anything.
It's a big movement, dude. I heard of him. I don't remember whose show I heard of him on, and they were just praising everything that he was doing so much. And then I saw that you had been doing some stuff with him, and you'd mentioned the organization several times since I've known you, and in the podcast that you've done and all, and to see everything that you've been doing with them has really been awesome, and the passion that you have as well, Scott, of course. But yeah, I heard people saying that it would be awesome for him to run the RNC at some point.
I would love to see it happen. I would love it. I would love it. But
Yeah.
I can tell you that knowing what I know about him, and I haven't known him that long, but when you have genuine people, you can usually read into motives really quickly, and I can tell you firsthand that while it would be great and it would be a fantastic asset, he's doing what he loves. It doesn't, most times it doesn't feel really, it doesn't look like it feels like work to him.
Yeah.
He just genuinely enjoys doing what he's doing. So,
And I think it's great to see it because that's what he's doing. And well, what you all are doing, because you do volunteer with him too. What's happening right now with that whole, I'm going to call it a movement because it really is. It's something that we hadn't really seen a lot of emphasis on the right ever. But the left goes out there, they go in the nursing homes, they're door knocking. And unfortunately, I think a lot of it is like, hey, how can I get you to vote for this person? Hey, who are you voting for? Hey, let's get you. Hey, I'll pick up your mail-in ballots for you. Hey, I'll do whatever it takes to get you to vote for my candidate. Whereas you were saying, like, you guys are going out there with Scott and all, and it's more of a, what are your concerns? What are you focused on? What's priority to you? And it becomes a more genuine conversation, like we were saying that you have on your show, and people respond to that. I make it no secret that I'm a Christian, and I don't really, do a lot of speaking to that all the time on my show, but now I forgot where I was going. Oh, one of the things that's always stuck with me is that people love relationships. People love to be able to relate to somebody. And, in the Bible, there's so many different stories that people can, if you can't relate to this, maybe you can relate to that in this situation or that situation. And Jesus wants a personal relationship with us. God wants a personal relationship with us. Everything is so centered and focused on relationships so much. And I see that throughout the world that, through networking or whatever, just building personal relationships takes you so much further than having, like you say, like this, ulterior motives or this other agenda behind it. It's like, I just want to build relationships. I want to talk to people. I want to help people. And you see those people, they may not skyrocket in success because the focus is not on their immediate success or their immediate fortunes or anything like some people's are, but you see it more long-term have legs. You see them more personally fulfilled. And whether it's your business or your podcast or, with what you guys are doing and Scott's doing, I think you're going to see the legs on that really go a lot further than just, a spike over here or a spike. I think you're going to see that growth and and the potential behind that and everything that's going on. I think you're going to see that long-term really pan out to be a great return on the investment for sure.
Well, and ultimately, it's interesting that you worded it the way you did when you said, in terms of success. Well, for me, I ask people, what do you determine as your measure for success? And at the end of the day, if I died broke, but I was able to elevate the people around me in some way to the point that it made their life a little bit better, I die broke, but I die successful. It really, success is subjective.
100%. 100%.
Like Scott's, again, he's a great example of that. Like, dude, he drives an old, like, I want to say it's like a 2005 Toyota or something like that, or something along those lines. But like, he's not driving around in a Mercedes Benz. He's not, he's not wearing the latest fashion. He's, if you look, he wears a pair of black cowboy boots that, you can tell have been they've seen some miles. Let's put it that way. Like, the guy is genuine. He's just who he is, and he doesn't like to make it about himself.
Right.
He doesn't, you do fundraising. He just did his very first fundraiser in Michigan. Okay. And it was his first fundraiser ever. He's been doing this since 2022 and he's never done a fundraiser.
Wow.
Like, the guy's really just in it to put in the work. you know? So I feel like it kind of goes the same way for him, is like, you know, he doesn't need millions of dollars to be successful.
Right.
You know, just it's all about the impact you make. And part of that goes back to my philosophy within Deliver, is that the impact that you make locally, whether that local is, you know, in your town or it's within your community, you know, a digital community, whatever it is, whatever impact you make within your section of the world matters more than chasing a large scale impact.
Mm-hmm. I think we lose sight of that so often. I think a lot of content creators want to, you know, get there overnight and think like, why is it taking me so long to get to 20 subscribers, or when am I going to get to 100, or, you know, when can I finally be monetized? It's like, but the goal is wrong. Like, you know, focus on that. You know, my background, not my background, my passion is filmmaking.
Yeah.
So, you know, we've got folks in our local community that are up and coming now and making films and stuff. And it's awesome to see some of us kind of more OGs of doing this for years now. And, but they're coming out with film after film after film after film. Right. And what we've noticed is that the quality is not there necessarily for some of them, but they're putting out the quantity. Right. Whereas we typically take our time and try to put out the best quality we can. And I think, again, that kind of goes to your instant, you know, your instant gratification and your boosts of like, oh, you know, here's your, you know, dopamine hit and everything. But then it fades off, where some of the other stuff has that longer ride, the legs there. So, yeah, I think quality is better than quantity. I think passion and genuineness just goes so far and everything in life, and personal relationships and business and networking, whatever. I think that genuine people are waking up to that now. You know, you tune into the news and they have to read things a certain way to get you to the next segment. And we just
not just that, but they have to put emphasis on it. Like, you know, they're like, a train derailed in Ohio today. It came off the tracks after. Yes, that's called a derailment, Joe. Like, it's phrased. Everything is buzzwords, and it's disgusting. It's why people hate what the mainstream media does. And you know, it's interesting when you say quality, because my brain immediately went to, dude, I'm shooting my show on a freaking iPhone in my home office. Like, you know, I don't have some big backdrop. I don't have like, you know, I don't have all these crazy fancy effects, and, you know, I'm not using an overlay machine. I'm using what's built into the program. And like, I don't necessarily, you know, I look at it sometimes and I'm like, wow, man, there are some content creators that are just, everything they do looks way more professional and it looks way more like put together. And I'm like, but it also kind of feels manufactured. Yeah. So, like, for example, I'll give you a metric. So for me, when I did the show with Zeke, and I saw that the overall views just between X and Rumble, and I know X doesn't do concurrent viewers, but you know, to see that post, even looking back now, it has like almost like 4,500 views on it, and I'm like, oh, so 4,500 people actually clicked this and may have watched 5 minutes of it. Like, that's wild to me, right?
Yeah.
So I don't care if 50 people watch my show. If 50 people watch my show every week, I'm going to keep doing it. Because those like I said, I'm just a guy that likes to have interesting conversations with people, and I happen to do it on camera. Dude, most of the time when I ask somebody to come on my show, there's no motive. I don't care about the clicks and the likes. I do it because I'm like, yo, this person seems like a great, you know, a great conversationalist. They've got, you know, some sense of values, and they're a human first and foremost. Yeah. And I was able to, I've been fortunate enough to be able to have some fantastic guests come on thus far. And it's very tentative, and you have to edit this part out because I can't announce it. I can't announce it yet, but
we're going to cut this part.
Yeah, it's tentative in July, and I'm just sharing this with you because you're you. it's still all very up in the air and tentative. But to segue back into what we were talking about, I've been very fortunate to have some great guests that come on to, this tiny little internet talk show that I do, this little podcast, whatever you want to call it.
Mhm.
And to be able to have people the caliber of George Santos and Zeke Arkham come on to a show that, doesn't pull 1,000 followers every week.
Right.
And that are willing to actually, promote. Just the fact that they're willing to put their face on a show with less than 1,000 followers, I think speaks to what you were talking about with quality over quantity. I'm not coming on to put guests in the hot seat or give them a reason to go viral. I'm literally I just want to talk to them. I want to see the person behind the personality.
Yeah, you seem like an interesting person. Would you like to come on and let's have a conversation? Yeah, absolutely.
Dude, look at the show that we did.
Mm-hmm.
You would be amazed at the amount of praise that we got for the 3-hour show.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Like I had people message me that say that, they jumped in like 5 minutes into it or whatever, and like they stayed for the whole 3 hours.
Wow.
Because it was just genuinely good conversation. And in the grand scheme of things, who are we? We're just two yahoos from, middle of nowheres.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just, but we had a very, very good, genuine conversation. We covered a lot of topics, mm-hmm. and it was able to keep people's interest. So if you can latch onto that and continue that without breaking the, when I say breaking the format, I mean by not having an agenda. When you're able to do that, it changes everything.
I think people are hungry for genuineness now too, because we've been so programmed, what the program on TV.
Yeah.
I think we've been so programmed with, we were picking at the news a few minutes ago, but look at what's on television. Look at what's in the movies. Look at the not so hidden agendas anymore, and the messaging and the push for certain things.
Yeah.
I think people are just so, I've always, for the longest, and I still use it, and I know I'm using it as it's used today, but the woke is we're not using it right, but I get why we're using it.
Yeah.
But people are starting to wake up, and that's why I think right now more than ever, and this will kind of segue into, I think, our next conversation and our topic here. I think people are starting to wake up now to the BS more than ever, and that manufactured roboticness more than ever, and they're seeking out genuineness. And that's why so many people are being attracted to Trump more than I think we've ever. I mean,
he gave normal everyday Americans a voice that they didn't think they had.
Yeah.
When he came down that escalator and he said, they're not sending their best, they're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists, and some, I assume, are good people. From that moment, that was millions of working class Americans that were like, whoa, wait, he just took the words from my head and spewed them from his mouth. Mm-hmm. Because up until then, politics was all about optics. It was all about what you were saying. It was all about how you said it, what buzzword you used, what your tone of voice was, what your body language was. And Trump just came in and was like, you know what? I don't like it. It's all bullshit and it's bad for you. Okay. Like he came out and he came out like an average everyday American.
Yeah. Which is nuts.
Despite the fact he's a billionaire.
Right. But, and he even made fun of that. It's himself. Yes. He said, I can act like a politician. You want me to walk like a politician, like a president? And he's like, I can walk. And he did the little walk and everything. And he's like, this is all stupid. I think of it a lot like, I grew up I was born in the middle 80s, in the 1900s, as some kids today call it. But I was born in the mid 80s. And so I kind of grew up in the 90s. And I remember seeing a shift from all these 80s hair metal bands and stuff, dudes with the big hair and the makeup and looking like chicks and everything, and all the performance and everything, to Guns N' Roses with jeans and flannel shirts, and then the grunge movement that came out.
I was just about to say, you know what the best thing to happen to the 80s was?
Yeah.
The 90s.
Hey,
The best thing to ever happen to hair metal was grunge.
but what a shift. Like, and it was like you had one or two come out, and then all of a sudden, boom, it was this huge shift. And it was so much more genuine as well. But then you start having people, mimic that to try to get that success too. But
Well, what
that's
it was it was the 80s hair metal was like, sorry, I ate pizza earlier and it is biting me back. But the 80s was this, and it was piggybacking off of the original big growth of rock music in the United States, where it was larger than life. It was it was this big theatrical thing where it was quite literally rock stars playing music for fans, as where when the grunge movement came in and it was bands like Nirvana and Alice in Chains that were out there. Puddle of Mud is a perfect example of just a group of guys that wanted to play music, that were playing music for the sake of relatability, to bring the audience back in. And that translated over into the 2000s with bands like Breaking Benjamin and 3 Days Grace that took that angstiness and that anger and that just the negativity that was, that consumes all of us at one point or another. And they were able to make it marketable and relatable to a wide audience. So it translated into success. And everybody talks about it's a pendulum swinging back and forth, right? You saw it from the 80s into the 90s, you saw it, into the 2000s. And then we got back into what I call the age of Gaga, where pop came back into the mainstream and it became this large, massive, over the top movement. And as we've transitioned again back to, let's look at rock and metal. Bring Me the Horizon did a collaboration with Lil Uzi Vert. They did a re-recording of Bad Habits with Ed Sheeran.
Oh, wow.
You've got bands like Sleep Token now that are blurring the lines between rap and hip hop and metal and shoegaze, ambient music, and their lyrical content, when you really break it down, is so relatable. And you're seeing, thanks to platforms like TikTok, where songs from these bands blow up because they're relatable. Sleep Token's rise, for example, I've been listening to them since 2017, their second EP, before anybody knew who the fuck they were. Pardon my language again. But, nobody knew who Sleep Token was in 2017. I was listening to them and I was telling everybody, you guys need to pay attention to this band. They're doing really cool stuff. They released their first album, Sundowning, in 2019, and I was telling all of my friends, guys, you have to get on this. These guys are going to be huge. They're creating this level of complexity to music that is really lost in our genre, because at the time, metalcore had kind of gone very cookie cutter. And 2021 rolled around and they released their second record, This Place Will Become Your Tomb. And I looked at every one of my friends and I'm like, guys, this is your last chance. Get on the train before it leaves the freaking station. Nobody listened to me. I was actually, a couple of my friends laughed at me and were like, dude, it's never going to happen. You've been saying this for 5 years. Just stop. And then 2023 came around and The Summoning was released. And it blew up on TikTok. These guys went from 250,000 followers to 2.5 million in under 30 days. They blew up out of nowhere. And what it was the shift into their third record was still the same band. It was still very much the angsty, dark, brooding group that they are.
Right.
But they packaged it in a commercial way, and people latched on to the lyrical content. They latched on to the sound. They've really started to build again, it's kind of that larger than life thing that I talked about.
Yeah.
But that larger than life persona is rooted in a level of reality.
Yeah.
So I think the pendulum is kind of starting to swing back, where people have gone from wanting that larger than life, that escape, to they want relatability. They want reality. You're even seeing it a lot in pop now.
And I'll say, I hadn't heard of them, but I'll plug my other little portion of my
Yes.
channel, the Mayhem Reacts.
Please, Bob Ross, tell us.
I'm the Bob Ross of reactions, according to someone from Sleep Token's reactions. I want to say it was, but yeah, you told me Sleep Token, Take Me Back to Eden, and to this day, I think that might be my biggest reaction video.
Really?
Yeah.
Did it get some numbers?
Well, for me,
yeah,
I don't know what that means. I'm looking at almost
it's subjective. It's subjective.
Almost 1,000 views, and I put it out a week ago. And
what's your average?
If I'm looking at it right here, couple hundred.
Right.
Couple
so
hundred.
That's well over. That's well over a 100% increase.
Yeah. So yeah, and that's one of those ones, like I was saying earlier, about stuff that has legs. I mean, that one, it took time to get there, but the community around that band has been awesome, which again goes back to the entire thing that you were just saying, that whole relatability and that wanting to belong to something. I mean, these people are like, we're here to praise. We're here in this, we are so grateful for your reaction because you took it all in and you exhibit everything that they want it to be. And, and I've tried my best to, interact with every single person in the comment section because everybody has been awesome. So very awesome. And I'm going to be checking out more. So, Sleep Token, I'm coming for you. I'm going to check out more, but
it's beautiful. I told you, I don't know if you saw it on X, but they're from the first song on Sundowning until the last song on Take Me Back to Eden is one continuous story.
I remember you saying that.
It's beautiful, dude. It's for me, they leave everything open-ended because they want it to be, again, that relatability. They want you to be able to craft your own story. But for me, it's really a story of love, loss, and redemption. And you can hear it not just in the lyrical content, but you hear it in the composition.
Yes.
And they bring it so, and I'm not going to spoil too much, but I want to tell you that there's a line in the very first song on Sundowning called "The Night Does Not Belong to God" that they repeat in the last minute of the last song on Take Me Back to Eden, which is called Euclid.
Okay.
And when you hear, like if you play "The Night Does Not Belong to God" and then you play Euclid, it creates a whole different world. And they do that through layering, and I mean you heard it in the video. It's just you don't feel like you're listening to a song. You feel like you could close your eyes and really be transported to somewhere else. They do a great job of filling the space. So yeah, dude, definitely you'll love delving down the rabbit hole. I'll have to send you an article that talks about the lore of that band. They've built like nuts, man.
I've looked into it a little bit, and I've had some people in the comments tell me a little bit. It's awesome, and that is to me that artistry. That as an artist myself, I love that. I love that. I love when people put so much into what they do and they're passionate about it. And again, they're not out to just chase the buck. They're like, hey, I'm going to be an artist, and guess what? If I sell 2 albums or 2 million albums, I'm happy because I got my art out into the world, and I'm going to chase this rabbit hole that I've got to tell. Like, I know when I write a story, sometimes I almost get sick because I have to get it out. If I don't get it out, it makes me sick. I got to get it on paper. And then I start documenting. Like I can almost close my eyes and watch the characters play out the movie, and I'm just documenting what they're doing at that point. But it's like, it's something inside you got to get out. And I think that's true for not just, artists in the sense of like what we do, but I think in people in general, like there's something dying inside of us that's dying to get, or something inside of us that's trying to live, I guess, that's dying to get out. And sometimes we don't know what that is. And then sometimes it takes us a while to find it because we're going around it. But when we finally find it, man, that's awesome to get it out.
One of the best examples that I think, and I'm a Sleep Token nut. I literally just bought this today. I literally just bought this today.
That's awesome.
Like, I'm a huge Sleep Token fan. I'm getting their I'm getting a tattoo back here in the sleep token runes right behind my ear. Like I'm a huge,
cool.
huge fan. But one of the coolest things that they did for me was the marketing for their second record, This Place Will Become Your Tomb, was they released sets of coordinates. And when you put everything together, like the one set of coordinates was the site of a whale fall. And for anyone that doesn't know what a whale fall is the process of a whale dying and its carcass sinking to the ocean floor. And throughout that process, what happens is as that whale's body decomposes, it creates a whole entire ecosystem of life within the different levels of the ocean and the different creatures that reside there. So part of that representation was because Vessel's music and Sleep Token's music in general is very, very emotional, and it tugs on the heartstrings, and it has a lot to do with pain and suffering.
Sure.
And it's obviously coming from a personal experience, right? A whale fall was probably the most beautiful comparison that you could give, because when you have, like what you were just talking about, that burning feeling inside of you that's dying to get out, how many other people may be on the edge, and how many people may be suffering and feeling that same pain? And by being able to, like you said, I mean, it can be a painstaking process for an artist because you have to put yourself in that mindset. So by someone else singing and creating art around their pain, there's an entire audience of people that are seeing it, that are hearing it, that are enjoying it, that it's giving a renewed sense of life to. And so that concept of a whale fall just blew my mind, because it's like you have an artist that's singing about some of the deepest pain in their life that is creating a community, like you've seen from the comments, of people that are there to build each other up, of people that have, like, I've been in the Discord, and it's just people sharing their experiences, and it's heartbreaking. But to know that there's a level of unity coming from one man's pain through his lyrics, through his composition, it's the most perfect comparison ever, because you are literally creating an ecosystem of life and hope out of your own despair. It's insanely beautiful. And I think it's a large part of why we see the pendulum swinging back, because there are so many people hurting. There are so many people that are going through immense pain and immense suffering day to day now, whether it's because of social contagions like gender ideology, or it's, not having parents, the younger crowd, coming from broken homes because parents have to work more and it causes stress on the relationship. Those things, people are hurting in very deep ways right now. And so that idea of, again, the whale fall, you're seeing people become attracted to things that they relate to. I think that's part of why TikTok became so big. Because if you remember when it started, dude, the content was great. It was so relatable. There was the same, like Vine even, you found a lot of stuff that was super relatable. It's not manufactured like what you see on Instagram.
YouTube was.
YouTube.
It used to be
YouTube's amazing.
YouTube is what it was. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I'm old enough to remember, surprisingly, when YouTube was basically a site for families to share videos of their kids' first steps. Just like Facebook was just a way to keep in touch with your friends. Like that was wholesome, and then everything became manufactured, and now you're seeing things kind of swing back to that more gritty, natural state where it's everyday people doing everyday things.
So speaking of everyday people, everyday things, great segue. Thank you. Got two more little sections I kind of want to cover. One is, all right, in your world, in your bubbles that you are intertwined in, what are the conversations that you're hearing about? And I'm going to bring it back to the election a little bit here, but what are some of the things that you're hearing, conversations and emphasis that people are putting on things or looking for in these elections? And I'm talking big picture president election, obviously. But a lot of this is in, local elections as well. And I'm going to ask you about that. So don't go too deep on the local stuff yet, but I will ask you about that too. But in the conversations that you have, because you are having conversations with people from all kinds of shapes, sizes, backgrounds, and whatever, just, what are you hearing? What are the rumblings that people are just, dying for? What do they want?
They want their lives back.
Mm.
They want their lives back. They want to be able to wake up every day and go to work and do whatever they need to do on a day-to-day basis without fear of having someone mug them on the street in a high crime area somewhere like California. They want to be able to send their kids to school without risk of their teachers hiding things from them and having their parental rights stripped away. They want to be able to, most importantly, they want to be able to go to the grocery store and be able to swipe their card for their bill and not have to worry about where their kids' next meal is coming from. They want to be able to spend time with their families. They don't want to spend life working under a corporate machine. They want to be able to boldly and unapologetically be who they are. They want to be Americans. They want to be sane, rational, in a lot of cases, God-fearing people. They want to be able to wake up and live their lives without fear of having it all come crashing down in an instant. And to an extent, there's always that chance. But when you look at the situations day to day in the world around us, most Americans right now can't afford $1,000 emergency. Imagine that. I mean, imagine, you're a dad.
Yeah.
Imagine, you get a call from the school one day that says, "Hey, your daughter broke her leg at recess. She's in an ambulance on the way to the hospital." And you get to the hospital to find out that, hey, your insurance requires a $1,000 copay or a $1,500 copay in some instances. And I don't know what your income situation's like, but to have to say, well, damn, my daughter's leg's broken and they need $1,500 to see her. I can either put myself in debt and take a hit to my credit score, or I can play catch up on the mortgage next month.
Yeah.
That's I mean, I'll be honest with you, Americans aren't asking for a lot. They're not.
It's nuts, isn't it? It's like, we just want to live.
Sad.
Like you said, they just want their lives back. It seems so simplistic, but look at how much has been taken away. Yeah. I mean, it's absolutely insane. I mean, and that goes into kind of what you guys do with going out there and talking to folks. What do you say to these people that think their vote doesn't matter? And I'll preface before you answer, I'll preface it with this. We had a local election just a few months ago, and and I think it was a runoff. The winner won by one vote. Literally won by one vote.
Are you in what county are you in? If you're comfortable with saying that.
I'm in Houston.
Okay.
And I can't remember if that was us here in Houston or if that was Bibb, because I'm from Bibb originally.
But it came down to one vote.
It came down to one vote. Literally one vote. And it was, and I think again, because it was a runoff, they went with, I mean, whoever gets the most votes. Doesn't matter if it's one or what. But when it's the initial, I think it has to be within a certain margin or something like that. But yeah, I mean, there's people out there that's like, my vote doesn't count. It doesn't matter, whatever. I'll tell you the truth. I didn't vote for Trump the first time. And I definitely didn't vote for Romney or who's the other one, McCain or whatever. At one point in time, I was voting for a third party candidate, Gary Johnson.
I voted for Johnson in 2016.
I dug him. I feel like, what? I'm not embarrassed and I'm not ashamed. I slept good at night that night. I'm like, look, I know this dude's not going to win. But I'm voting for a winner. This dude right here is a champ. I'm like, he's done some good stuff.
You're voting your conscience is what's happening. You're voting based on what aligns closest to your ideals.
Yeah. So whether you're voting third party or for the left, the right, the whatever, I mean, every vote, as I was just saying, absolutely does count. But what do you say? Because I know you guys run into people that say that.
I can't really speak for the rest of the guys. But I know myself when I'm having conversations here with folks locally that are in my area, when they say that their vote doesn't matter, My first question to them is, so if I came into your home with a gun and told you you're going to give me X amount of your income and I'm going to take X, Y, and Z from you,
Mm-hmm.
Would you not defend yourself? Would you stand up and be like, no, get out? Would you pull a gun and shoot me? Would you, what would your reaction be?
Right.
And 9 times out of 10, it's, yeah, you wouldn't make it through my front door.
Mm-hmm.
And my response to that is, so why, when the wolves are at the door, do you open it up and let them in?
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you lock your door at night? Why don't you, when they step in, why don't you push them back out? Because that's what happens every day in an election. Every 4 years we have the opportunity to either, let the wolves that are at the gate come in, or we have the option to deter. We have the option to get them away. And in a simpler context, the question that I ask is, well, by that logic, you're not standing up for yourself. And if you're not going to stand up for yourself, how do you expect anyone in a position of power to stand up for you if you don't make your voice heard? Right. If you don't voice your concerns and vote based on your concerns, those people are never going to hear you. And if it's someone that's like, yeah, but my vote doesn't count. Well, okay, your vote might not be the deciding factor right now, but your vote sends a message.
Mm-hmm.
It's not always going to come down to that one vote, right? But at the end of the day, one vote is one voice added to a collective.
100%.
And we're seeing it with the conservative movement right now.
That's what I was going to say. And I think we are for the first time truly seeing the emphasis on that. And I want to say conversion of thought on that with what Scott and everybody else is doing, is that, you had Democrats for so long knowing that fact that every vote counts, and Democrats largely win the popular vote anyway. So they're like, hey, so we've already got that in the bag, but we've got to get the electoral college, and we still got to go after more and more votes. So they get it, and it is a game plan. It is a mission. It is a focus, and I don't think it's ever really truly been that way for anyone on the conservative side. I don't want to say Scott's necessarily the first, but he's definitely one of the biggest to really get behind this and push this.
He's a unifier. Man.
And just hearing him talk, I've heard him a few times. This dude is so passionate to go out there and make a difference, and it's obvious.
He's not here to play politics. He's here to enact change. Mm-hmm. And to your point, I think when you sit down and you talk with the average conservative voter, for the first time in a long time, I think everybody's top 3 issues are the same. For the first time in a long time.
Yeah, I would agree.
It's the border.
Mm-hmm.
It's the economy.
Of course. And 9 times out of 10, I would maybe not 9 times, but I'd say at least 7 times out of 10, you get kids thrown into it, whether it's the gender ideology or it's the rampant pedophilia or it's the education system that's failing us. You generally have the top 3. The top 3 issues are generally pretty much the same. You have a unified conservative base that wants the same thing. And the difference between, I think, our side of the aisle and the left, most importantly, is you're right. You don't see the infighting on the left. You know why you don't see the infighting on the left? Because the plan's all manufactured. You don't have any real passion. You don't have any real desire behind it, as where, when conservatives step up to the plate, they step up to the plate. Yeah.
And our party's always been the party of healthy debate. We've always had a lot of infighting.
Yeah.
And we always will, because the conservative spectrum is so large. You have the libertarians, you've got, what I would call the religious right.
Sure.
You've got your, some of your moderate conservatives, but you see a wide range of conservative ideals. When you look at the left and you look at the Democrats, it's all one unified message, and it's all manufactured. And that's part of this pendulum swinging. Is for the first time in a long time, the conservative base is almost 100% on the same page, and that's a very, very dangerous thing for a manufactured movement. When you have a real passionate group and a real passionate section of people that are stepping up to the plate and saying enough is enough, you can't win a war based on a fallacy.
Right.
And I think we're seeing the change.
Absolutely. On a large scale. So I alluded to it earlier, the local stuff, local elections. What do you think about that? Because I think a lot of times that's overlooked when you go look and see how many people voted in local elections or in the midterms versus when it's the overall presidential election, everything that comes with that. The voter turnout is insanely, off from one to the other, but so often it's the local representatives and the local community elections and boards and stuff like that make the more direct, impactful stuff in our lives on a day-to-day basis. What do you agree with that? What do you think about how I think we overlook it.
I think your local elections are more important than any presidential election could ever be, because while federal overarching policies obviously affect everyone in the country, they don't affect everyone in the country equally. Your local elections are the ones that are immediately affecting you. It's the ones that it's affecting your neighbors. It's affecting your children. For example, I think one of the biggest things that people miss out on when we talk about local elections is school boards.
Absolutely.
You go and you look at your school board elections, and obviously you can look at your mayor, but you want to look at your city council. You want to look at the people who are on your council. You want to look at how the treasurer is spending money. What projects are they building up? What are they actually doing to give back to the community? Are they, for example, here, I just had a conversation with someone from the GOP earlier today about the fact that the one town over from me is very, very deep blue now. And I remember, 2016, I was working as a security guard for the hospital. And it was a very light duty job. It was, none of us were armed. We basically just walked around and we helped register patients. It was like we or register visitors rather. It was really not pressure. And I was just in there the other day, and it blew my mind to see 2 armed security guards standing in there. There's a gas station in the middle of the town that has armed security. Now, it's Democrat run. And now, on the flip side of things, massive corporations are moving in while mom and pops are closing their businesses.
Yes.
So it's, we're like, everybody's excited because we're getting a Five Below, and we're getting we just got a Dunkin' and a Jersey Mike's and a Starbucks, and we're getting all these cool things, right? But the mom and pops are the ones that are suffering.
That's right.
So, you have to look at, when we talk about larger areas, because I live in a pissant town. But when you look at the larger areas, you have to look at who's investing and why are they investing?
Right.
Did they promise them tax breaks? And if so, what is the projection of revenue within that? What's your revenue of tax projection? You have to have those numbers before you make the decision. And you need to be able to look into that and ask your council people, hey, you're giving so-and-so X amount in tax breaks. How are you going to make up for that? Because you have this on the list. Are my property taxes going to go up? You have to pay attention to those things, because everybody's quick to look at a presidential election and the federal ones, while the local
Yeah.
elections are the ones that are screwing them with property taxes, that are screwing them with, just whether it's gas prices. You look at, and a lot of that's done at a state level, but everything is calculated by businesses based on local regulations. If you can't control your own community, you'll never be able to control anything larger than that, because it's like the age old expression, you got to clean your house before you complain about somebody else's, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you can't clean house at a local level, how do you expect to make any change anywhere else?
One thing that pisses me off is I have found out about local elections the day of or after the fact that I don't think there's enough emphasis from either the parties themselves or the local, what I do catch is like the local news media or whatever. Like, it's not pushed out there that much either. So I give them a little bit of blame on that. I definitely will take on some because I should be more engaged, but we see the presidential stuff out there nonstop for 2, 3, 4 years from one election to the other, basically. Yeah. But then these other ones roll out. It's like, oh yeah, we had a school board meeting for, president.
You mentioned getting engaged, right? You know what the best way to get engaged is?
What's that?
How often do you eat out every week?
I'm the wrong one to ask that one too.
Because you cook, right? I assume.
I cook. Woo, I
All right.
cook.
When you go shopping, do you shop at a mom and pop or do you shop at a corporation? You can answer it honestly. It's no judgment.
I don't do a lot. I don't really go out shopping. I do try like to buy.
Is it the wife that does all the shopping?
We don't do that much shopping. We're kind of lame. Really? Now when we go get like clothes for a baby girl or something like that, we do go to.
What about grocery shopping
or stuff like that? Grocery shopping, we go to Kroger. Yeah,
right.
That's the most of it. And we may run down to Walmart for something, or I may shop on Amazon for something.
Right.
Very seldom do I just shop or go around, but yeah, most of what I do is that.
So here's the easiest way that I can tell you to keep people engaged, and it's something that in your day-to-day everyday life, right? Mm-hmm. When you go to the grocery store, talk to the cashier. Mm-hmm. Just ask them, be like, hey, do you know when the next local election is? It's like inquisitive, and if they're like, you know what, no, I don't, we'll say, well, you know what, it's this day, you can vote all day, do you know what's on the ballot? No? Well, here's some resources that I have at the ready so that you can inform yourself. Some people, some people are going to look at you and go, yeah, not interested. Thanks.
Sure.
But that conversation of like right now, the best way to do it is when your total comes up at the grocery store, go, whoa.
Right.
You'd be like, wow, that prices went up. And they're like, yeah, they did. Things are expensive. There's your icebreaker. That's
Absolutely.
why I said, when you go out, how often do you go out to eat? How often do you do this or that? Because whether it's a server at a restaurant or it's, the college girl working part-time, behind the counter at the local grocery store, whatever it is, every single one of those conversations matters. And if you're informed, and you're, at least yourself involved. I mean, not everybody has time to go and door knock, right?
Sure.
But the smallest conversation that you can have with someone, that's all that mattered, dude. I had a 10-minute discussion with somebody in the coffee shop the other day, just while we were waiting on our coffee. Right. We put in our orders and we're standing off to the side and we're just BSing. I saw something on an X, and I just leaned over to the guy and I was like, did you see this? He's like, no. What the? And he, grabbed my phone, he looked at it and he's like, I had no idea. Well, yeah, this is what's going on, man.
Wow.
Those basic, it comes back to that human element of like, you don't want to walk up to a random person in the coffee shop and be like, so who are you voting for, buddy? Mm-hmm. You strike up a human conversation, and usually within the first few minutes, you can tell whether that person's engaged and they give a shit or not. And
Yeah.
if they give a shit and the conversation goes, well, you just let it happen. I can't tell you the amount of people who I've had a conversation with and given my number to and then never hear from them again.
Mm-hmm.
But the few people that I give my number to that in, a month or 2 months reach out and say, hey, it's so-and-so. I met you at I met you here. We talked about this. Just curious what your thoughts are on this. And they send me an article and we get into a text conversation. And like, it's that human interaction. I used to say it when I was in retail, when I was younger. People love people. People hate salespeople.
Mm-hmm.
People want human interaction. So those basic conversations at the grocery store, man, that's the best way you can do it, because you know what? You might not have the time to go and door knock, but that part-time college student, that's passionate about it, they may want to go and spend, the rest of their part-time schedule talking to people, getting people involved. Smallest level, man. And that's how you change hearts and minds. You don't change hearts and minds with advertising campaigns, and you change people's minds by having a conversation
and being a real person. So in beginning to wrap up here a little bit, back to you of being a real person. Couple of questions. What is a unique characteristic or personal trait that separates you from others in this online community? Like, why would people want to tune into you? Now, I know you hit on that earlier, but is it just that you want to have good conversations? Do you come from a different perspective, different life experiences? I know you're a business owner. You and I both worked in retail. Of course, a lot of people have, but what is it that sets you apart? I think from a lot of other people, and we're not, dissing anybody or knocking anybody down. But again, I think you've been very fun to listen to and very entertaining to sit down and watch and get lost in a 2 or 3 hour conversation with somebody.
Thank you.
But that's just me. I mean, why would somebody want to invest that time in you? What do you offer that maybe somebody else doesn't?
That's a tough conversation, because like a lot of people, I deal with my own sets of insecurities and my own sets of demons.
Okay.
I have my own intrusive thoughts, to take a trend, but I don't know that I know the answer to that, because every time I get on a stream and I have 100 people that watch it, I'm like, whoa, it's been up for a week and 100 people have watched this. It's still surreal to me that, like, I get compliments on Twitter or anything like that, and it's so strange to me, because when I do these shows, for those couple hours or that hour and a half or whatever it ends up being, I'm not recording a show. I'm escaping. For me, it's just a genuine enjoyment. It's a hobby. It's something that I've been a mouth runner since I was young. I was always been the talkative guy, and for me, it's just something I like to do. And if people enjoy hearing, whether it's thought-provoking conversations or some of the shows that I call disorganized chaos, are just they're just fun streams. They're just they're just there to laugh and have a good time, and because not everything has to be so serious.
Oh, sure, sure.
To say what sets me apart, the only thing I can think of is that I don't do this for any kind of praise. I don't do it for any kind of personal gain. Like, I just do it because I like to do it, and if people enjoy watching it, that's great. If not, hey, thanks for giving it a shot.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, that's pretty much it. There's no agenda. It's just me doing me. And that's a lot of content creators. It's a lot of people out there, that like you yourself included, and Sean and Elaine, Jesse, a very large majority of the people. Yeah, Mike's the whole reason I have a show.
Oh, okay.
Like I was on the fence about doing it for a long time, and he just was like, dude, you need to do it. You're good at it. You'd be a natural. And I just, I gave it a shot, and it worked out. So, there's a lot of people out there that are very much doing the same thing that I'm doing. And for me to sit here and say what sets me apart from those folks,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Man. I'm just a guy that likes talking to people and happens to do it on camera.
I enjoy it. So y'all tune into the Washcast. We'll more on that at the end, but definitely, I mean, if I can turn somebody on for 2 or 3 hours and just stay engaged and actually lose focus and everything else I'm doing. I was working on something and I was watching, was it you and Zeke? I can't remember if it was you and Zeke or if it was you and George. I know I was working on something over here on this screen, and then I had you guys over on this screen, and I just completely lost track of everything I was doing over here because I was all engaged in what you guys were doing.
So I love that, man.
That's a great answer. Awesome. That is fantastic answer. Another fun question for you. And this doesn't have to be political or whatever, but if you could go back in time and give a younger you advice, any advice, what would it be?
Stop trying to put yourself into a box. Stop trying to blend in with the crowd that you see around you. Stop trying to chase a lifestyle that you thought you deserved or you thought that you wanted.
Yeah.
And focus on values, because I've talked about this a little bit in the past, so I'll just kind of skim over it. At one point in my younger years, being from a small town, I got a dose of the big city. I got in with some friends that were in the porn industry, and I never did anything on camera. I happened to be friends with a lot of people, and I used it to make a little money just by booking people. But I kind of got wrapped up in that lifestyle of being at nightclubs and
sure,
wrapped up in the online universe. And some of that came off the heels of like me trying to get into entertainment, and still something I'm passionate about, just not a career path. But for the longest time, I was chasing something that quite honestly didn't align with who I was. I found myself sacrificing parts of me. And at the time didn't realize it, but looking back, it's like, it was never you, man. You were chasing the popularity you never had. I was a loner in high school. I was just didn't fit in. And so when I had the opportunity where I was given to easily assimilate and easily fit into a culture, I took it. And that's really the only thing that I could say to myself was, just do you unapologetically, because I do that now. And
yeah, look what's good.
My life's not the greatest, man. I don't live a lavish life. I don't, but I'm happy. I lay my head on my pillow at night, and I know that, like, I've made a lot of great friends, a lot of great connections, a lot of people that if they don't see me tweet for 24 hours, they text me and they're like, "Are you okay?" So, and I've managed to gain a lot of really great people in my life just by unapologetically being myself. So, where a lot of folks would go and be like, "Oh yeah, stay in school," and like, yeah, I dropped out. Guess what? I don't regret that. I don't regret that one bit, because I've still managed to build somewhat of a life for myself. So just, I would tell myself to just be unapologetically you.
Absolutely. I think that's great advice for your younger self and for anybody. I mean, and it's never too late to do that. I mean, no. I famously have announced that I just turned 40. So, it took me a long time to figure that out.
And, when did you figure it out?
Dude, I don't even know if I've even completely figured it out, but I know I was like, I'm just going to go do me. And I was probably in my 30s, late 20s, early 30s, probably. and doing the filmmaking thing is something like people are like, you're too old. You didn't go to school for it. We don't live in Atlanta. We don't live in Hollywood. We don't live in, but I found a group of guys and we said, let's go have some fun. And we are now, through multiple films, we're internationally award winning filmmakers. And so, it's awesome. I love it.
That's awesome. I love it.
I have so much fun doing it. And, we've never made our money back from anything that we've made. We just pour our money into, props and lights and gear and everything else and feed everybody well if they're on our production. And we put it out there and just release that out there to the world and let people enjoy it. And it's a lot of fun. 2 more questions for you. I'll say the most important one for last on this one.
Let's do it.
Who do you think is going to win the presidential election?
I don't think it's even a contest. Trump's going to. I would not be surprised if we see a Reagan Nixon repeat in 49 out of 50.
It'd be something. It's kind of looking that way, but I don't want to get too optimistic in that because then people might not show up. But yes, I agree. Last fun little question, but it's important. So I want you to be honest with the audience. You got a great grill. We've talked about that multiple times. And it looks very familiar. And I'll probably even put an overlay right here, but I've never seen you and JoJo Siwa in the same place at the same time, but I've seen that grill. It looks like the same grill. Are you not JoJo Siwa in your alternative life here? Be honest. I got fact checkers that watch.
All I can tell you is that come as a bitch.
I love it. Hey, obviously I want to thank Robert for coming on today and, to learn more about him. I mean, we've gotten to know each other pretty good, but still not, super deep in who we are and, some of our thoughts and beliefs and everything like that. So I really enjoyed the opportunity for me to get to know you. I enjoyed the opportunity for the audience to get to know you a little bit more, to talk about your show, to talk about what you're doing with with registering folks to vote, with just everything that you're doing, man. I'm super, super excited to know you, to see everything that you're doing. And I'm not that it means anything coming from me, but I'm super freaking proud of you, dude. For breaking out of that box, like you were saying, finding yourself and just having fun and making the most of life. So, where can people find you? I know we mentioned the Washcast, but where is the Washcast? What is the Washcast? Who is the Washcast?
So I host the show every Thursday night on Rumble at 8 p.m. It's live on Rumble at the Washcast. It also goes live on my personal X or Twitter page at Real Robert Her. I recently changed it because I was told that my other username was too difficult. Okay. So it's you can find me on X, Instagram at Real Robert Her. In that, there's a little link. It's got a little mini website that I created through an app called Milkshake. It's got a little about me. You can find all of my projects there. I have a daily news show that I'm going to be starting, but I'm having that quality over quantity kind of battle in my head of like, how often am I going to be able to really do a video a day? Right. So, but that's coming down the line. But pretty much all my socials are at Real Robert Her, Washcast on Rumble. And the biggest thing that I want to say is that anybody that watches this that, wants to reach out, just literally let's have a conversation. I'll send you a link for virtual coffee. We do, 15-minute meeting, get to do a virtual handshake, and don't be afraid to reach out. Like I said, I'm just a guy that wants to talk to interesting people. So, get connected. We're building a little community that, you've seen, it's starting to get pretty cool, man. We've got some really great people in our circle. So, come join it, come be a part of it. And to your point, it means a lot, because at the end of the day, I would take a genuine compliment from a guy like yourself way more seriously than I would ever take from somebody with a massive platform. And I don't say that negatively. It's not a diss on anybody. But when I have, somebody that's like me, that's just a guy that's doing what they like to do, that recognizes it and appreciates it. You know, it means a lot. So thank you for having me. This has been my pleasure. Seriously, I love it.
Hey,
You
pleasure's
make some
all.
fantastic content. Anytime you post anytime you put anything new up, dude, let me know. I'll blast it out. I'll share it around. I'll try to get some folks watching you.
Appreciate it.
Hopefully it's worked thus far.
Yes, I appreciate everything, especially the sleep token suggestion.
Absolutely.
So all the socials and everything that he mentioned, I will make sure all of that's down in the description below, including the one to milkshake that just has it all, basically.
Has everything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
you can even get a free month to the locals community. We haven't really started, posting too much into it, but there's an exclusive audio only episode that I did with a guy named Theo Jordan. Super fantastic guy. There's a free month to the locals available as well.
cool.
Jump in, check out the podcast. I'm going to try to do some more stuff on it coming up. But yeah, man, just get involved. You keep doing what you're doing. We've got to work on some stuff here soon together. Mikey should be messaging you as well, because I mentioned to him that okay. you do filmmaking, and obviously he does a lot of video projects. So I'm sure he'll be reaching out because he definitely wants to collaborate. So
perfect. Well, I love it, dude. Again, thank you so much, guys.
Pleasure's
Appreciate you all, and go check him out. The Washcast, just Robert in general on Twitter or X or where, just follow him, check him out.
I'm a jerk on Twitter. Don't let appearances deceive you. I'm a sharp-tongued devil on Twitter, and I like to keep it that way.
Well, thanks for being with us, man.
Dude, thank you for having me.
Drinking and driving, a lot of people say it's wrong, and I call these people the cops. But you know what? Sometimes you got no choice. Those kids got to get to school. Am I right?